Welcome back to season 2 of the Katie Wellness Show. I am back with more amazing tools, awesome interviews, and some great discussions to help you optimize your health, body, mind, and spirit. Not only can you use these tools every day, you can also teach them to your children and to your family members so that you can raise emotionally and physically resilient children, so that you can show up more in your life, that you can take back your personal power. Get ready to tap into your intuition. I'm so excited that you're here. You are worthy of health and of joy and of thriving in your motherhood, thriving in your life. Thank you for being here today.
When you reached out to me and I read, looking into your profile a little bit more and looking into what you help women do, I just connected with it so much because I am someone who does tend to burn out and push myself more than I probably should sometimes. And so I feel like I'm not alone in this.
Mhm.
And I am always curious about what other people do to help with that burnout. So I'm so happy you were willing to meet with me and share your wisdom and your advice and your perspective and your approach to helping women shift from stressed out and drained and inflamed, which I really can relate to that, and to strong and energized. So thank you for being here today. Will
Thank you.
you will you tell me how to properly pronounce your name?
Yes, it's Radhika.
Radhika.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't want to take a guess at it and be
Oh, that's
be
fine.
wrong, but okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here today, Radhika. Will you just give us an intro to you and what you help women do?
I have been doing this work for more than 10 years now, and I think I would say that it happened pretty organically. It's not something I intended to do. I was, like most of my clients, on the other side of the table where I was in working in corporate. And then it wasn't until my mother got diagnosed with an illness that I decided to sort of, go back and study and see how I could support her with alternative modalities and nutrition and detoxification. She's going through chemo and all that. And so once I lost her, I was grieving. And for that grief, to help support my grieving process, I went into yoga studios. I was living in Austin that time, and I was practicing twice a day. It was helping me move the emotions and, heal me, mind body perspective. And so I was like, I need to now study and become a teacher and offer this. And so while I was doing that, towards the end, I realized I want to also go back and study nutrition and health because I was so engaged and, self-learning while helping her. And so that's how my practice was born. And it's evolved to the point where now I work with women specifically. They are, professional creatives, entrepreneurs, high performing women, if you will. I guess most women are high performing. Um, just the nature of how women are always creating and managing and the way that we function. And so just supporting them through these pillars of physical health, physical wellness, mental well-being, emotional well-being, energy, emotional, mental comes very overlapping, and then their spiritual well-being. And I started combining the modalities I studied and then modalities I grew up with, which came from, the India. And then once I studied it again, it kind of brought it back because I grew up with from more like an embodied perspective of these wisdoms. So like Ayurveda and yoga philosophy and then also like the coaching psychology and other certifications that I did from functional nutrition point of view. So, combining all of that, and I started helping women through that journey of their life where they can feel balanced and live that unstoppable life, but still from a place of flow.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily that you're helping women to stop being high performers. It's you're teaching them how to
Right.
find the balance with all aspects
Mhm.
of life so they're not burning out. I love that.
Yeah, because it's not for me to tell them. Nobody wants to be told what to do, but once they have the tools that they already feel like they have access to and maybe new tools, they can somehow learn to recalibrate what their needs and desires are in the moment and how much they should push themselves or not.
Yeah. That's great. And I love that emphasis of learning to tap into themselves, right? Like it's not something that it's maybe something that we're born with, but we learn to stop listening to that voice. Over time, we learn to listen to other people of authority, more than we listen to ourselves. And that voice, that inner voice kind of gets drowned out a little bit, I think.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It
I'm curious where you said you did extra training and you went back and got certifications through um, what did you, it wasn't integrative. Where did
Yeah,
you get
so
your,
I did my health coaching from Integrative IIN Institute of Integrative Nutrition. That's where I
okay,
began the health coaching,
okay.
and I studied human potential coach training, which was like a spun off from what used to be known as Bulletproof, because it was started by Dave Asprey, who was like the movement, biohacking movement. So it was almost like very like antidote of what now I'm doing, which is like more like, listening to intuitive wisdom and listening to the wisdom of the cycles from nature, and which is what Ayurveda teaches us. But I went through that route. And then I also did functional nutrition from functional diagnostic nutrition, FDN, and I studied that so I can help my clients with recommending supplements and also like functional labs. And then I studied with um, Dr. Jack Cornfield and Tara Brach, who are like well-known meditation teachers, mindfulness training with them while I was already guiding, my clients and otherwise doing workshops around meditation and mindfulness. I wanted to just add that extra layer of, training with them. And then most recently, I was studying with Embody Labs on how to like, have this trauma sensitive mindset when you're working with clients. So just bringing that how we can understand what's happening if someone's been through trauma.
Yeah, it's so important to have that perspective too, that the lens of trauma, because we don't want to, especially when we're working energetically, I've noticed I don't want to bring up something that can't be resolved if there is a trauma like that I don't know about, having that trauma sensitivity training, I think is really important. So on your website, it says that um, your training and your practice is really rooted in neuroscience, which is like how the brain works and how the brain connects information from the environment and from the information that our food and our intake and is giving it, but also through Ayurveda. Can you tell me, has it been difficult to kind of blend those two modalities or backgrounds
I
as
think,
you've been working with people?
yeah, that's great. I think what happens in coaching, it really depends on the client. Sometimes they're of the intuitive consciousness where they are like, just tell me what I need to do. I feel they're more like, I feel this way and I'm feeling I need to get this from you. They don't really want to know how, like, what is the science behind it. But then there are some, not that they're not intellectual, but then there's some who are just of the cognitive and intellectual consciousness and they want to know what's happening in my body when I have sugar cravings, or what is happening in my brain when I feel like that. And also, I've noticed even if they don't ask, they just prefer knowing the science behind it because then they stick with whatever they need to feel aligned, for their well-being. So, for example, let's talk about burnout. All right. And like what happens in the brain, like the amygdala is the brain's alarm system, right? And that becomes overactive. And there's almost like an amygdala dominance, and the body is staying in flight or fight. And it's not really a failure for us when we get into burnout. It's just that we are so like in that over functioning mindset as women that we just get from an Ayurvedic perspective, and this is how I combine, we just get away and away from nature's alignment because Ayurveda simply is what the science of life, which means that, and I don't teach it from a very like, this is the herb you have from a pharmacological perspective. It's more like what is the wisdom that we can learn through the wisdom, like the lens of Ayurveda, which translates into looking at outside and seeing what is the cycle, what is the season, what is happening in the morning and the day, and how we can align our body and our well-being to those rhythms. So when we get into burnout, we are just a little bit disconnected with the rhythm of life, the rhythm of the seasons, the rhythm of morning or night. Like, so we just get away from that. And that's why our body gets into that state where there is that dominance of the amygdala, which then says that we are in fight or flight, or even when we are not in immediate danger, we're always like, and at the same time, like the prefrontal cortex, which gives us emotional regulation, and it helps us think about boundaries, when I should say yes or no. That also gets then fatigued, because I often hear my clients say that I know something feels off, but I don't know what quite it is. I'm feeling fine, but still there's something off. So that is that dysregulation where the prefrontal cortex is, which is which is the part of the brain which tells us how to regulate ourselves, is not we're not able to get that information because we are so fatigued. And it happens to all of us when we move through transitions in life. It's not like I am oblivion and I'm like, this perfect person, that life doesn't challenge me, and I go through those motions as well, right? But then just having this wisdom of rituals from Ayurveda helps me stay balanced, even like if there's one thing I can do when I'm like so activated. But between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex is the limbic brain, where the emotions and the memory stays. And when we are under stress, or like we're tending towards like a lot of like function over functioning, the limbic system then becomes like conditioned to like expect there's something wrong. Like it just keeps replaying those stories, the intrusive thoughts, and then we just feel overwhelmed, and there's this like emotional unrest, almost overload. And that is why I see a lot of clients that they're not able to just rest. When I say less is more, like you need to do less. And that's why that at that point, like silence and rest becomes a little bit unsafe for them, because they just want to keep going. So it's almost like, how do you slow down? So Ayurveda describes this. In Ayurveda, there are like these constitutions that, their qualities in the environment and also in the body. So it's almost like the quality of vata, which is like so much overwhelm, and air that helps, sorry, that makes us, when it's unbalanced, it makes us stay in that flight or flight state. So how do we balance that? Whether it's like through meditation or through rituals. I mean, we already know the reason I say meditation, because there's so much research that it helps restore the balance in the prefrontal cortex, and becomes thicker. It helps us soothe and regulate the limbic system. Just the pause, even if you're not meditating, just create just the pause between the stimulus and response can help us like co-regulate ourselves in the moment, like with ourselves. Like we can just be like, okay, what is it that I need to do? That is when like then discernment comes in. So how I combine it with Ayurveda is, Ayurveda has this, there are three principles that Ayurveda talks about that I like to, share. One is that like increases like. So when we are, let's say, like if it's winter right now, right? So outside, the energy outside is like everything is hibernating, the leaves have gone, it's cold, and we want to bring in heat in our body. But if we don't see what's happening in this in outside, and then we are like, no, we're just going to have smoothies, that will amplify cold in your digestion, and then that's going to make you more activated in your brain. It's not going to calm your nervous system. So just knowing that like increases like. But on another side, if our lives are overstimulated, we're overfunctioning, and we are anxious, and we are depleted. So that will also, the more we keep doing that, we keep going, it will again amplify those. So how do we, so that comes to the next principle, which is opposites restore balance, or they the opposites create that balance that will help us restore, come back to a state of homeostasis. So it's just that, like, okay, this is happening in nature. I need to do the opposite. I need to have, it's cold. I need to soothe myself and have a warm cup of tea, not have a cold smoothie, have less cold things, and, restore that warmth because our digestive system has evolved through the years to be warm and moist inside. But I see most of us having like ice water, which is like, just dampening the digestive fire. And I talk about the gut because all our hormones related to, our mood regulation, they all are in the gut. And so for us to balance serotonin and all of that good stuff that makes us feel happy and regulated, we need to take care of our gut health, or even like accessing that intuition or sense of inner discernment also is related to our gut health. Like you were saying, when it's blocked, then we don't know what to do. We just keep in that same cycle. And then the third, and then rituals also help, which is what Ayurveda is about: morning rituals, night rituals, day rituals. So rituals definitely help, regulate the nervous system. And then the third principle that I like to use, very simple to, translate into our daily lives, just knowing, is that what happens in the microcosm impacts the macrocosm and vice versa. So what's happening in the outer world, in the environment, there's chaos and everything political. Like, we tend to say, oh, I don't want to be involved in politics, but believe it or not, you can't not be involved. The fact that you're living in this life in the society, you are part of it. And so that can mirror in our inner world, so that is also the opposite way, that whatever shifts we create inside is going to be rippled outside. So whether it's like taking that pause and meditating, starting your day from a place of, singular activities or like gratitude, that is sending out that energy in outside the world. Like how you take care of yourself is also going to ripple outside. And so that is like, how those two worlds can be intertwined to explain the science, and then, using the wisdom of Ayurveda, simple principles to see how we can shift a little bit.
Yeah, I love those. Do you go more in depth on those principles in your book, Radiant Rituals?
Yeah, I do. So the book is also like in divided in my philosophy. So starting with physical, and then, talking about nutrition and daily practices, and then going into things like more esoteric things like letting go, surrender, intuition.
Mhm.
And that's like the mental, emotional, and then going into energetic practices. So yeah, I do use a lot of these principles and explain how we can create, like sharing rituals to inspire the reader, and how they can also create their own.
Yeah. I like having that perspective of like increases like for good or for bad.
Yeah.
And I it makes sense, the opposites restore balance. I'm just thinking, if I'm going with the seasons and I think of foods that are in season during the winter versus the summer, the foods that are in season during the winter are things that are really good, like the root vegetables, really good in soup, which is a hot food, like restoring that balance. And foods that are in season in the summer are more salad type ingredients like the lettuce. So that is really cool that the seasons really can help us to know how to eat intuitively. And
Right.
also in the winter, we should be hibernating a little bit more and slowing down. And I think for high performers, for me anyway, I gained a lot of my worth through my productivity. And I know
Mm,
I'm not the only one. Like I see it with the clients that I work with, that this high performance comes from, oh, I can't slow down because if I slow down, then I'm lazy.
yeah.
And so a lot of it is changing these beliefs
Right.
too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That, I think that has, that's, I'm also guilty of that. That as women, we tend to balance everything, like professional and personal. And there is like this patriarchal, it's embedded in our psyche from years. And it's almost like a patriarchal belief that we have to do more. And that's why we feel guilty. not doing anything. And then this time of the year, the nature tells us you want to hibernate and introspect and sit by the fireplace with a warm cup of um, tea and maybe just like, be mindful, maybe do nothing, maybe just journal or read a book. I think even reading a book sometimes or listening to a podcast can come from a place of, oh, how can I do nothing?
Hmm. How can I still be productive while resting or by
Yeah,
doing
like
nothing?
my clients are like, can you send me, I want some homework. Can you send me like a podcast? Listen while I go for a walk. And sometimes I do that as well, right? Because I'm like, one of my value is the love for learning. So I'm always trying to read or always trying to listen to a podcast. But then sometimes I tell myself, no, I'm just going to drive without listening to anything. And which is like in yoga philosophy, that's called pratyahara, which is like shutting down the sensory inputs and turning yourself inward. And that is when you can really hear your thoughts and desires and your intuition. But we are always like external stimulation is always there, which then shuts us off from what is it that you actually want to do, right? And now we have like so much stimulation from social media, from AI, like people are always externalizing what they need to do, whereas the wisdom is inside. And sometimes it's also in the body. So once we are regulated, once our nervous system is regulated, we can feel like, how does my heart feel? Am I feeling a tightness in my shoulder? So the somatic embodiment of the feelings is also important, right? But that comes from like, I think, managing our expectations about noticing and being self-aware and conscious that am I just doing this because I want to tell myself a story that, oh, like you said, I want to be productive and I'm resting as well.
Huh? Well, at my 20s, I spent reading every self-help book I could get my hands on. I don't know that in that time I read a single nonfiction book. It was all like self-help. And
You mean
I
like
was
fiction. You only read nonfiction. You didn't read fiction. That's what you mean.
I did not read any
Fiction.
fiction. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can relate to that. My daughter, she's a teen now, and she's like, you need to read a fiction book because my bookshelf is full of nonfiction.
Hmm. Yeah. And I heard it phrased once as stop collecting gurus. Like at some point you have to stop reading all the self-help books and turn inward and say, okay, what is going to actually work for me? Because I would read all these self-help books and think, oh, this is a great idea. I'm going to start doing this. And this is a great idea. So I'm going to start doing this. And it was just piling on more work and more responsibility. And that, yes, they were good things, but was it what I needed at that moment? Was it actually helping me, or was it just adding to the full load that I already had, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and then that, and especially if you're talking about burnout and trying to turn away from burnout, we have to like, it starts with doing less, the
Hmm.
recovery, and
It
then
does.
breath through ritual, through, sensory reduction and resting without guilt.
So I hear the answer to some of these questions, but I'm curious what you would say to those women who are feeling very burnt out. From the women that you've worked with, I recognize that every person is different and every person needs to take a different approach. But like on average or in general, what are two or three things that women in burnout mode need to either start doing or stop doing that
Mhm.
can help
Yeah.
reverse the burnout or help get them back to centered and energized?
Yeah, I think the first comes from the awareness, right? Like just the awareness that you're doing more. So start making a list of like all the activities that you're doing, whether it's personal or professional, and seeing where can you minimize some of those. Where can you outsource, perhaps, if you're in a place to do that? And so like just reducing the overload of whatever is on your plate. Because if you're burnt out, then you're obviously over functioning or you are there could also be burnout from lack of like a lot of my clients they are in senior positions but then they are not satisfied completely in their work, they are not able to focus on their deeper purpose, so lack of spending more time with, like, maybe I want to write a book, or maybe I want to create this art. So then I ask them to outsource something at their work so they can find time for their deeper purpose. Because that can also, that overthinking over there, that I'm not doing that, can also cause burnout. So one is that. And then using wisdom from Ayurveda is basically, the rituals that I talk about. So the morning rituals, using some of those ideas and creating like your own menu of rituals that will help you when you wake up in the morning and when you're transitioning into bedtime. So some of the things that I recommend, and you might be familiar with this, is that spending some like 5 to 10 minutes in the morning taking care of all your senses. So like in Ayurveda, so they say like when you wash your eyes, you spray some rose water. And then when you clean your oral hygiene before brushing your teeth, you use like you do oil pulling, which helps cleanse your, the toxins from the night before. You use some sesame or coconut oil and swish it in the mouth for like 5-10 minutes, and then you throw it in the toilet, and then you clean your brush your teeth. That helps. Just what happens with taking care of our senses is that when we operate in the world from 100%, not 100% of our sensory perception, then our output is also a little bit then minimized. So taking care of your eye health, your nose, in Ayurveda, they suggest, like especially during the cooler months, you lubricate with a little bit of oil. Again, sesame oil is the simplest and safest. Just the edges of your nose, you clear your sinuses. You have more, capacity to when you're practicing breath work, and it's just again you're operating at 100% of your, senses. So taking care of all of those things in the morning can help. And my favorite is doing self massage. It's called Abhyanga with oil, like either before or after a bath, massaging yourself with oil very gently. What that does is the touch, you're increasing a little bit of that, with the touch and the massage, you're increasing the circulation, the lymph is moving. You're also offering yourself a nice self-care ritual. So when we start doing these small rituals and create, and the reason I call it ritual is that you create it as it's intentional, and knowing that this is not something if you don't do one day and you can always come back to it. So it's very intentional. It's also got this quality of presence. So it's helping you slow down, because when you're feeling over functioning burnout, you're like always, you're trying to heal your limbic system. You're trying to tell it to, there is healing through safety, through slowness. So some of these rituals help with that. And then again, there are rituals at night, like, oiling your feet will help activate some, so similar to acupressure points known as marma points, which regulate other organs in your body. So simple things like that, or having a cup of tea with like tulsi, which is a holy basil, which is an adaptogen known to help regulate your stress. You're telling your nervous system and your body that I'm slowing down. There's safety. So you're, healing that part of the brain, which is taking you away from being safe.
Hey, that's awesome. Thank you. I love the focus on rituals instead of habits, especially for people who are in burnout or live life by a checklist. I feel like habits are more things that we do unintentionally, or like we've just been in this cycle of doing the same thing over and over again. So we just do it out of habit. We don't even
Right.
necessarily think about it. But these rituals, a menu of rituals, like I really love that idea of, well, maybe I'm not really feeling doing all these steps today, but my eyes really need extra cleansing today. So I need the capacity to see more today. Um, yeah, I really love that. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Glad it resonated. Yeah,
Yes.
habits can become more outcome driven and more unconscious over a period of time. Whereas I think ritual has a quality of like intentionality, you're conscious, you're creating, I think it's like also you're creating a little bit sacredness in it, because it's very individualized, and also like compassion and grace, because if I don't do it today, we're busy, we have children, we are managing so many things, and it's not that you're going to do the same thing at the same time every day. It's fine to come when we have that, that gentleness towards ourselves, we are able to come back to it.
Yes. Yeah, and I think knowing that it's a ritual we take from the menu what we need that day, it allows us the grace not to have to do all the things
Yeah.
in order to take care of ourselves. It's like, what do I actually need today? And leaning into that one piece of ourselves to heal that one piece. And just knowing that we can ask ourselves and also respond in a way that fulfills that need, I
Mhm.
think proves to ourselves that, oh, actually, I am important. I can take care of myself. Like it just reinforces that message that we really kind of lose through productivity to prove our self-worth.
Right, exactly. Yeah, self-worth. That's a big um, lesson there.
Yes, yes. All right. Is there any other bits of wisdom you'd like to share with us, or where can my followers connect with you online or through social media?
Sure. Yeah, I just want to share one thing to sum it up is that, a lot of time clients, and also like we are, when we open social media, there's always a new diet or new tool, um, something new, right? Like, oh, I'll use this and I'll feel better. And while those are great, like red light therapy or sauna, infrared sauna, or like, I don't know, just like an LED mask or something. But those are great. But I think beginning with the foundations, like how you start your day, how you bookend your day, those are important. And also like just that checking in that what do I need? Like instead of asking yourself like what's wrong with me, just ask yourself what is the quality that I have been living in too much, and what is the opposite I need right now to help balance that. And that will take us to like regulating our nervous system rather than like, let me try this new thing. So just
Hmm.
coming back to your body and your mind to tell you what is it that you need. And yeah. So you can find me on my website, holisticprana.com. I have a seasonal living course which takes the individual who joins it through different seasons. And like, for example, in winter, what is the kind of ritual you begin in the morning, how you start your day, what do you do for your hormones to stay balanced in winter and fall, and like things like that, and what are sleep rituals and mindfulness practice, stress regulation practices. So that's like a seasonal living course that walks you through all the seasons. And then I also offer, like as you're aware, like one-on-one mentoring. And then my book will be out next year this time. So if you're interested, you can sign up to be on my email list through my website, and you'll be in the loop. And then you can also follow me on Instagram with the same name, Holistic Prana.
That's awesome. And I love that you already have at least two free resources that I found on your website, the guided meditation to manifest your ideal day and 10 ways to master stress. So if those of my listeners who are wanting to get like a little bit more taste of what Radhika does for her clients and working one-on-one with her, just to get a little taste of it. And I'm sure that puts them on the email list as
Yes,
well, just to
sure.
get more resources. And if this is something people are struggling with, these are some really amazing resources. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for the work that you're doing and the resources that you have to so many people.
Thank you so much, Lindsay, for having me. I appreciate it.
What a great episode that was with Radhika. I am excited to get my menu of rituals started. And I've already started brainstorming different ways that I can really intentionally set my day up for success, not in a I have to check this off my list kind of way, but in a what do I need? And I really like the idea of a menu of things that feel good, that feel rejuvenating, that feel like I'm actually taking care of myself and not just checking an item off a list, not because somebody told me to do it or because I feel like I have to do it, but something that really actually does help me to feel good. And this idea of taking care of the senses really helps me to focus those efforts and be mindful. I think mindfulness is a huge part of avoiding burnout. If we are mindful of the things that are sucking our time and our energy in advance, then we can, like Radhika suggested, that we can do the opposite of that thing that's sucking our energy to help restore balance. But being mindful of, or being aware, start making a list of the activities that I'm doing and what can I cut back on, what can I minimize, what can I outsource. And if there are things that are required of me to do that feel like they're sucking a lot of energy, that are causing the burnout to go faster, what is the opposite of that, and how can I include that more in my life? So these were some great insights, and all of the show notes contain links to Radhika's free meditation guide, her 10 ways to master stress. You can connect with her on Instagram or on her website. She has a lot of really great resources, and the course that she talked about is available on her website. So go check it out. Thank you so much for tuning in this week, and Happy New Year. Welcome to the new year. Let's be mindful this year. Maybe choose a word or a phrase or a theme that we can use to center our lives. And I'm someone who likes to have a word or a theme for each quarter or for a half of the year. I'm not necessarily consistent enough to do it for the full year, but start with a half a year, start with a quarter, and see if that mindfulness changes how you show up in 2026. I look forward to future episodes with you, and thanks for being here.